Wars franchise is massive. It branches into multiple mediums like toys, Lego, video games, movies. One of the best pieces of Star Wars media that I have seen in recent memory is definitely Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This game is great. I'm not the only one who has said this. From the launch to the brink of Jedi Survivors' launch, this game has been praised for its gameplay, but also for its innovative story, which follows Star character Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis, who becomes the target of the Galactic Empire in his hunters throughout the galaxy by the Imperial Inquisitors, by also attempting to complete his channel, reconcile with his troubled past, and rebuild the Jedi Fallen Order. But before we talk about the game, let's start the beginning of my Star Wars journey. I began watching Star Wars when I reviewed the prequels back in May of 2022. This propelled me to watch the other Star Wars movies, right? I watched the Star Wars movies, The Bad Batch, and all the Disney Plus shows, and the Clone Wars, obviously. Needless to say, I'm a massive fan of Star Wars. So when I bought this game in June of 2022, I was expecting a Jedi story with twists and turns, and it turns out I was not disappointed. The story of Jedi Fallen Order opens on Brocta, with Cal Kestis trying to complete a scrapper job with his friend. This then leads to an admittedly boring tutorial section, and Cal escapes the second sister with Cersei in Greece. This then leads him to the Jedi Temple on Bogano. As a first area, Bogano is a great place to learn the gameplay of Jedi Fallen Order. From the frog roaming the lands to the spiders and just those little tiny critters that you want to hit constantly, it provides a decent challenge for new players while also being easy to grasp the gameplay on a beginning level. But moving forward, Cal finds a holocron with a list of many Force-sensitive children and embarks on a journey to go to the 3 tombs of the Zepho and save the children. This eventually leads him to Dathomir, which is a very famous planet in Star Wars mythology. There they find the last remaining Night Sister and unite to take down a common threat, Terran Malaksuko, the fallen Jedi. Before the fight, Cal's lightsaber breaks down and he has to create a new one. With the help of Cersei, whose Padawan used to be his second sister, and they come together, building the lightsaber and defeat Malakos. But skipping just a little ahead, the second sister ends up stealing the holocron, and Cal defeats her, only for her to be killed by Darth Vader. Cal then turns and runs, but nearly dies, if not for the Night Sister named Marin. That's a massive oversimplification of the story, but overall, the story is very solid, and it's all the bases like a good story should. Star Wars deals with Order 66 and surviving on your own, and I think this is the Star Wars story where you seriously don't need a jumping off point. You can jump off only knowing the basics, or even nothing, and you can still really enjoy this story. For someone, at that time I had only ever watched the prequels. I replayed this recently having more knowledge, and for both player bases, it really gives you something to like, and to be inspired by, and to understand. But nothing is perfect. Some issues can still be found with the story. For one, it's very predictable. From the twist about the second sister being Cersei's Padawan, to the twist of Vader killing the second sister, everything just feels very predictable and pre-cut. Another thing is that the pace is all over the place, right? 1 minute in the story, it'll be slow, you're discovering the holocron. In another second, it'll be extremely fast-paced, just to go back to being slow again. Now, this is not really the story's fault, because I feel the gameplay slows this down. Spider-Man PS4 is the exact same way, although I think that game actually handled pacing a lot better than this game. And I don't think story is an excuse for the pacing to be this bad. Although the gameplay is a factor in the pacing of the cutscenes themselves are just bad with pacing in general. Speaking of the gameplay of Jedi Fallen Order is extremely solid. The gameplay is similar to Metroid in the exploration, and akin to Dark Souls in combat. I must stress, I've never played either of those games, and at this point, the wiki is my best friend. But while exploring the worlds in Jedi Fallen Order, you realize just how linear they really are. Many of the planets like Kashyyyk and Ilium are very linear in nature and don't leave any exploration organically. This is not true for every planet, though. The first planet we originally talked about, Bogano, is a very open planet, and it's the first planet of the game, and is a tutorial of the game. While exploring this planet at the end of the game, I still found like a little critter in the stim canister. This level of exploration bleeds into the combat. The combat level system of Jedi Fallen Order is one of its greatest strengths. As you start the game, you'll see that you have very few abilities. You may have a simple lightsaber at this point, but you don't even have a heavy attack or a light attack ability. But as you progress through the story, you will unlock new abilities like a dash or even a saber throw that completely changes the gameplay style every time the skill tree opens. At the beginning of the game, you're scared with your limited moveset, trying hard to avoid combat, but by the end of the game, you're running headfirst into a bunch of purge troopers and demolishing them. While upgrading your skill tree, you will also sink lots of resources into the force abilities. For things like force push, or even to hold enemies up in the air, there is lots to do with the force abilities alone. This seems to have set Fallen Order apart from every other game in the genre. It takes a fresh take on combat, and leads to some unique gameplay moments like dashing into a group of enemies like a movie. My only nitpick with the force abilities in this game is that most of them will never be used. I unlocked the lightsaber throw ability as my last force ability, and I really wish I had it sooner. What I'm trying to say is that the versatility of the skill tree and the moveset scale as you progress, and I think that this is executed almost perfectly. Speaking of the combat, it's very tight and very fun. If you block the right time, you can parry an attack that's at the level of timing, and if executed perfectly, will lead to a finisher that knocks out smaller enemies. This links with the many moves that can be executed and leads to a variety of combos and ways to defeat any enemy. While most enemies have things to beat them, the bosses don't. This is one of the weaker points of Jedi Fallen Order. The bosses are either cool aesthetically, but they're not really cool gameplay-wise, like the battle on Dathomir, or the Second Sister for the 100th time. You literally fight her like 4 times. And I think that this game could have used more variety in its bosses, so while all the bosses are cool, I never really struggled with them, and even the Purge Troopers gave me a harder time. The Second Sister, who you fight 4 times, is a pretty good boss, but I prefer the Ninth Sister because of the versatility in her moveset. Even I played on Jedi Master difficulty. The bosses lacked the difficulty to make a remarkable segment to the game. When I tried to switch it to Grandmaster, it just became too difficult. There's no middle ground for me at least. And yeah, although the gameplay is very tight knit, it does not have some good performance. For background, I was playing on PS4 Slim, and the performance is I think the worst I've ever seen in a game. Constant frame drops and freezing, along with minutes of loading screens while entering an elevator or a cutscene. Along with those performance issues, there were also a lot of audio bugs, and times where I'd have to reboot my entire PlayStation 4 due to the audio completely cutting out. By no stretch is it impossible to play, but it definitely ruined my experience to some degree. Overall, Jedi Fallen Order gives a unique experience to anything I've ever played, and I hope Survivor can fix these issues while also experiencing an upload gameplay. I really hope Survivor will improve on some of the nitpicks I had with this game, because looking at Survivor, the 9-minute gameplay video, along with the trailer, it looks like it's going to be vastly superior to the original game in almost every single respect. And this game is overall really, really good. This video on screen, I think, made a really good point, and it's that everything in this game is painfully close to being perfect, but it's a little bit off. It's not like, for example, it's not like Horizon Forbidden West, where there are some good things like the combat, some bad things like the open world, and it's like everything is so painfully close to being perfect that I can't help but say this game is nearly perfect itself. It's painfully close, and I think it kind of hurts. I'd rather this game be a little worse, because it hurts my soul to see how close this was to perfection, especially compared to most of the games I've played in this genre. The genre of Dark Souls difficulty, which I really have only played a few games in. But yeah, I really love Fallen Order, and I cannot wait for Jedi Survivor. So yeah, thank you guys for waiting for this video. I got really bored of YouTube for a little bit, and I kind of had to figure out how to return. Don't worry, this is not the only gaming video, nor is my channel turning fully into gaming. Next video will definitely be a movie video. But yeah, if you like this video and you like Star Wars in general, check out the video on the left. And if you like this style of video, check out the video on the right. I'm Joshua from Other My Studios. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys very, very soon.